I'm Paul Hagstrom. I am presenting today on Beneath Apple Manor. Okay. There we are. Okay, so this sort of starts out with a Facebook post. This is Don Worth on the Apple II Enthusiasts group. He had been kind of like going through his stuff and kind of, sort of distributing things around. And he says, March 13th, 2013. I think this may be the last of the purge, so I'll quiet down. I have a few file folders and an eclectic mix of stuff from Beneath Apple Manor, Beneath Apple DOS, and what I had called Outdoor Beneath Apple Manor, which never came to fruition because I over-designed it. There are cartoons from Beneath Apple DOS, some that he thinks were never used, source listings, notes on things. Sounds great, right? Here's the picture that he included. This is slightly bigger of the picture that he included. So you can see the cartoon from the book, and there's printouts and quality software catalog, paste up manual. It's all very cool. So here we have, when you zoom in on the photo, you get the comments. And here I am. I could certainly scan it, I say. And eventually, well, here, zoom in a little bit. Okay, your pile's up to 12 pounds. It's in a nice big box. Great, I'll start warming up the scanner. 6 years ago. So, right. He sent it relatively quickly. Here's the pile of stuff arriving in my office, April 2013. And there it is again. So the folders of stuff, it's pretty cool. Okay, so here's where we are. The ideal here was that I would say, because I wasn't getting to it, the years are going by. So I said, all right, well, I will submit a presentation for KansasFest. That will be the motivation to get it done. And the reality is, I got close-ish. So anyone I've talked to this time has heard me say, "Oh, I have to run back and go continue working on this thing." What I've been doing for much of the past couple weeks, basically, is going through scans and sort of fixing up the colors and contrasts and cropping and OCRing and trying to get all this stuff sort of put together. And I think I'm just about done. What I had hoped to do was to do all that first and then mine it, so I could say, look at all these interesting things. What I'm actually going to wind up doing is presenting these things that you can do some mining on yourself, and maybe next year I will present the part 2 on whatever I mined. But there's actually kind of a lot of stuff here. So so Don Worth himself is I think he's a mathematician at UCLA, and so he did a fair amount of stuff working with fractals and topography and stuff like this. And there's some code in the notes about that, and some interesting photos and stuff that I will show you. And I think, oh well, actually maybe let me back up a second. Who has played Beneath Apple Manor? Is this something that people know? Okay, that's kind of what I was suspecting, because I have not played it. I have a kind of an idea about what it is. So that was one of the other things I was going to do, before I got here, was to sort of play it and understand it. But it's very early. It's like 1979, maybe 1978. It's a very early game. People call it roguelike, although rogue is later. But so it's a sort of, it's a role-playing type game where you can sort of, you go around a world and you see, actually it's a procedurally generated world, so it's not the same every time, that's what made me think of it, the fractal generation of landscapes and so forth. Anyway, right, so he was interested in that, sort of generating sort of realistic scenarios. There's notes on the development of Beneath Apple Manor. There's actually also some notes on some further things. So there was a special edition where graphics was added, and there's also some letters that he got about the book Beneath Apple DOS and Beneath Apple Pro DOS, and some notes on advertising and sort of how that was done. So it's actually, he saved a lot of interesting stuff. It's not complete in any domain, but it's interesting. I know Don Worth mostly through, as a result of his co-writing Beneath Apple DOS. So that is a fantastic book on the workings of the disk operating system. 3.3 mainly, although a little bit about 3.2. And then there was a follow-up on ProDOS, which I didn't read because I don't do ProDOS. But okay, so anyway, mainly what we have here is stuff for future research. There's a bunch of letters. Let's see if I don't know if I can. I think I can make this better. He didn't send me this one though. He kept this one. So this is from Woz to him, saying something. I would urge immediate dispensing of a Rev E Apple II to quality software, Don Worth. So, a little hard to read, but anyway. So that was cool. Otherwise, he sent me a bunch of the stuff. Okay, and that's the end of the presentation. So now comes the sort of random stuff. Oh yeah, here, maybe I can zoom out on this a little bit more. Okay. There's a way to do this. Let's try that. Okay. What I want is full screen that I can zoom. There we go. Okay, maybe this is more readable. So much of the vital third-party software is due to the available information on specifics of our hardware and operating system. So Woz is very, go open information. And that's pretty cool that he was impressed by this book. Okay. So what I'm planning on doing here is just sort of showing you a few of the things, some of the documents that are there, so you can sort of see what kinds of stuff there are. Partly due to how far I got, and partly due to the very small pipe we have to the internet here. This doesn't actually exist anywhere yet, but it will soon. Maybe by the time we leave Kansas City, but at least soon there's going to be a spot on the Internet Archive with all the scanned stuff here. But, so, let's see, this is the cover of the manual, Beneath Apple Manor. And so this is sort of, I think we had he gave me a couple of copies of this actually, but there's a lot of this like sort of legal pads with code written on them, and I thought this was actually kind of interesting too. That a lot of what he was there's kind of an amazing amount of code handwritten. I mean, pages and pages and pages of this. So this one I think is the open routine, and there's things about monsters and there's things about movement, and they're often all in these sort of independent notes, which I guess he by hand took and worked out. So that's interesting. This would I think be even more interesting for those who say, "Oh, I recognize that part of the game when it does this," but because I don't know the game very well, I wasn't able to do that. I think, though, that, yeah.
I would never write out a program on paper.
Uh-huh.
You asked Don why he put an application on paper.
Well, I didn't. Oh.
Columns sucks to write it on a computer. You gotta write it on paper and type it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So the discussion here was about why, did I ask Don Worth why he wrote it out on paper rather than typing it in? And Steve says, well, of course, this was because it's actually quite unpleasant to type in 40 columns. This is 1978, 1979, so there's really, it's a pretty basic machine. But this actually characterizes a lot of, how do you do this? There's a show all tabs. Yeah. This actually kind of characterizes a lot of the stuff he's got. So he's written out all, we've seen a lot of these kinds of little, graph paper pixels worked out. But in fact, actually, he's written out like the manuals. I guess that's not a good example, but like there's actually I think the entire, let me see. Yeah. Yeah, that's not it. Anyway, he's got longhand versions of, let me actually find this. So I know that the Beneath Apple Manor manual is written out all in longhand on these notebook papers. And then there's actually also this, I don't know if the scan's going to come out very well, but it's an actual paste up that was done, with like strips of paper glued down that was used to make the actual manual, the cover of which we just saw. So that's kind of cool. This is very hard to keep together. It keeps falling apart. But, yeah. But back in the day when cut and paste really meant cut and paste. This is another thing that was sort of interesting in there. So I'm basically talking about random things if anyone wants to ask something along the way. When am I supposed to stop, by the way?
You are on until 2:45.
Oh. Oh, okay, I got lots of time. I'm not going to need it all the time, probably, but he gave a class on advanced assembler, which actually involved like some of this creation of like large-scale games and stuff like that. So it's this. There's an ad here for the class he taught. I don't know when, in 1981, I guess, and a course outline for sort of like what he did in order to teach people assembly language. 10-week class, 2 10-week classes. The thing that reminded me of it was actually where was it? This. I think this was actually a talk he gave at a user group, sort of about what one does to design large-scale games. And it's interesting to sort of see, from the perspective of this very early time in computer history, like what considerations there were. So, like what kind of game is good for this kind of computerization? So board games work well. Well, no. Some board games work well. SSI did some. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work well on a computer. Anyway, whatever. You can read this on your own, but it's an interesting thing that he kept. So, okay. There's some letters from Byte. So this is in the sort of advertising section where they have submitted an ad to Byte magazine, and so Byte is writing back saying, "Thanks for joining our advertising empire," and a little very well aged thing that represents what went in. Mock-up of what the ad should look like, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know if it's, where is it? Oh, this, I think this is neat. This is the Beneath Apple DOS, like, proposal. Like, they want to make a book. It's going to be about 130 pages long. It's going to be called Beneath Apple DOS, and it's going to have these sections in it. So before it even existed, this is this is what they presented. It would be actually kind of interesting to see how much it differs from what actually got printed, but given what I've seen here, it's probably identical. Everything seems to be very organized, and then thrown in random folders and sent across the country. But at this time, it was all very organized. So, if you wanted to see the actual sort of design of a cleric, this is all very D&D based stuff. In fact, somewhere in here, I also have like a little monster table, which is, I'm pretty sure, comes straight from D&D. This I thought was nice. A little piece of paper. I don't know if this is going to be readable. I believe this is basically just brainstorming on possible names for what became Beneath Apple Manor. So the Wary Beast, the Quest Machine. I think, Beneath Apple Manor probably is better. Here Be Dragons seem to be popular. But anyway, I think it's kind of interesting to sort of see the process. Or at least I intend it to be interesting once we have a chance to look at it, once the scans get to somewhere where you can see them. So, okay. Some clip art, actual clipped art. So there was a stack of these, probably, 15 or so, and with different things cut out that were being used to sort of paste into the different manuals. So I think these guys are both in the special edition manual. Yeah. So this is the regular manual. So this is the scan of the actual result, the thing that they sent out to people, but it was done by pasting together all these things. All right. There's some interesting letters and things. It's quite possible that I will, when I post these, do some redacting, but I don't think the stream is actually going to be able to read these anyway. So, sort of tech support letters. I'm in possession of Beneath Apple Manor. Here's my machine. This is my problem. It would be sad if I spent $20 on a game I can't use. And it's, $20 in 1981 or something. But it's also interesting that he kept all this stuff. Presumably not every single tech support letter, but something caused him to save a number of these. Stamps were 15 cents. Okay. Some are completely unreadable. Okay. Oh yeah, I wonder if I have... All right. Let me look here. So, one of the things he did... I'm surprised I didn't do this. All right, so... He apparently had, at some point when he was designing these sort of landscape generation things, printed on something that I'm guessing is thermal paper. I don't know if this looks familiar to anybody, but these things completely turned orange. So I was able to turn them into this, which I was a little bit amazed by, that I could actually make it look that clear. Those are the same things that, at the cost of making it be blue, but, so this is the island of DDW. Anyway, he was clearly quite interested in this kind of like fractal generation stuff. But yeah, that's what they looked like before. Also, there were a couple of pretty interesting screenshots done in a very manual way. So there are Polaroids where he basically turned out the lights in his living room and took a picture of the screen. And so I have, where would they be? Yeah, I have, I think that's what we're looking at. All right, let me just find it in the, okay, name, Polaroid. Okay, that will be this. So even scanned, and I've done what I can, but it's actually really pretty hard to see. And I even if you're holding the thing itself, but some of these you can actually kind of see. Yeah, so he's taking a picture of his monitor. There's another one. Sorry. Oh, very nice. Somewhere there's one where you can actually sort of see. Yeah, here. this is how I know that it was taken in his living room, because you can actually see his sort of blinds. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. He saved them. I scanned them, but they don't look like much. Okay. I feel like... Let me see if there's something else that I wanted to specifically mention. Well, maybe actually before I sort of like continue digging through this stuff, let me also say something about the other stuff that goes along with this. So one of the things that I got was a binder. It was like a demo binder. Okay, back up. And here, this. So this is a picture of well, it's open, but whatever. It says the software factory on the front. And they sent this out to dealers, basically, to encourage them to buy the stuff. So there's Linker and Babel and I think Beneath Apple Manor and a couple things that are in there. And there's a demo disc. So that's kind of interesting. And let's see. That'll do. Okay. Of course, this is back in the old enough days that you actually need to use a 13-sector boot. But let's see. One thing I did do before I left was to create a WAS image of this. So go away. Oops. All right. And I'm not sure that this actually exists anywhere else. There's one possible place it might exist. It worked a minute ago. It worked here. All right, well, here, let's see. All right. Yeah, I thought I ejected it in the other one, but... I do not approve. Okay. Yeah, all right. All of you go. Discard. Yeah. If this doesn't work in a second, then it's not that important. But the discs, as it turned out, so he had some discs that came along with, that he'd also saved, and he had like the text files that were behind, the text files of Beneath Apple DOS and some source code for Linker and some other stuff, and but it turns out that he sent them to different people. So I think the current custodian of most of those discs is Mike McGinnis, who isn't here, but I may try to get them from him. But so he worked slightly faster than I did, and he got the discs, and only a couple of years went by with him on those before he actually did post those things. So maybe I'll also just mention his site. This is Mike's site, 6502 Lane, and he posted the contents of a number of these discs. So in particular, this disc that I'm sort of trying to work with here is, I'm pretty sure the same thing that he's referring to here is the software factory dealer demo. Mike did these transfers with an FC 5025 controller, which is, it's in the same world as applesauce and CryoFlux and stuff. It's basically sort of like doing quick reads of the floppy. And he believes, and I haven't cross-checked this, but he believes that he actually got some errors when he was reading his. So it's possible that I have imaged the only one that's left at the moment. But anyway, the stuff that Mike has on his site is pretty interesting. So he's got this demo, But he's also got the original text files from the DOS disk using PyWriter. So you can read, Mike's write-up of this, but you can compare this to what was in the actual book, and that's kind of neat. I mean, you can always read the book, but I suppose if you wanted to republish it, this would be quicker. And so, at least right now, all of these, like as of earlier today, the zip files are still there. Probably not a bad idea to make sure they're somewhere else also. But Bag of Tricks is a book that they wrote kind of as a follow-up. It's not really a book. It's sort of a utility package with a book as a manual. But so there's stuff for this, and the some of the stuff is missing because there's actually some story here that the co-author was the one who's sort of responsible for that chapter, and so it didn't make it. But so anyway, there are a few. So basically, what needs to happen is that Mike and I need to sort of consolidate our stuff so that it's all in one place and can be sort of researched together. But at this point, once I put my scans online, at least they will all be online. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, is the software factory pretty much the same as quality software we made?
I believe that is correct. I mean, like they were called the Software Factory first. I don't know. Well, see, actually, the next step also would be to talk to Don Worth. Maybe we can get him to come talk to us here. Because he definitely has some interesting stories. Let's see. I think he posted, a while ago, he posted some stuff on Facebook, like pictures of his old computer room and stuff like that. I think it's okay for me to do this since he posted it publicly. But, I think he's interested still, or was 6 years ago. But I think it would be really useful to talk to him about sort of how these things all fit together. I was kind of hoping that it would be easier to detect from the stuff that I had how these things all fit together. But at any rate, I believe that's true, that it was the Software Factory first and then quality software after. Okay. Meanwhile, let's see how this is doing. I'm going to... Okay. I'm going to make a new... here. A fresh copy to destroy. Maybe this will work. Okay, that seems promising. Well, almost. I wasn't paying attention. Everybody else is watching me, eject the boot 13 disk, but anyway. Yeah. Okay, now try it. All right. Anyway, the proof of concept will be here in just 1 second, and then all it really is a menu that says, like, here's some demo stuff. So it's interesting in that we might not have been able to see it before, but that's about it. Slot 6. Maybe while we're waiting, I can plug in the color monitor. Yeah. So 1979, Beneath Apple Manor, Astro Apple, and Babel. Babel is a sort of like a natural language generation machine, computerized Mad Libs of some sort. It makes poetry and things. Astro Apple is a astrology computer, and Beneath Apple Manor is this game. Let's see. I haven't done this before. This will be interesting to see what happens. Nope. All right. I skipped past the title page. Okay. So it asks you for some information. Okay, let's say too easy. so I set like how many rooms and like how easy it was supposed to be. It will now do some computation, which I will do at super speed. So I played the regular game. I haven't done the demo before, but this is the place I got, and then realized I had no idea what I was doing. So let me hit. Let's see. Okay. So I hit a key, and it says enter one of the following: A B E H I K L N O R N S. These don't seem to be directions. R. Oh. Help. Which direction? W. Interesting. So those of you who know how to play this, do you know what?
I think R means run.
Okay, run.
And then ask for direction. Yeah, let's go do that.
Is a direction a little letter?
Yeah, ask for south.
South. Oh, the little blue dot moved down.
Blue dot is you.
Okay, run south. That's in it.
You've reached the end of that hallway.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So, and I assume once you see it, then it fills in, right?
Yeah, it maps what you've seen.
It maps what you've seen, yeah. Anyway, so it's not super intuitive, but it was 1979. I think, is there anything anyone wanted to ask about this? Because I think basically, I've shown you the stuff that I thought was interesting in here. My plan is to A, make it available so you can all look at it, and then B, go through it myself to see if I can come up with interesting things to either ask Donworth about or present. So. Hmm?
Not about Apple Manor, but was the big car?
Yes.
Okay. I recall John Worth saying in one of his comments on Mike Thing that thing he's most proud of. But I was always thinking it was something he just using as an internal.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that was in all these advertising materials. Linker dynamically loads and relocates your assembly language programs anywhere in RAM, is what it says. So, so low level, but I mean, this is what people did with computers at this point. So, yeah, it would be interesting to look at this. I think we do have from Mike the source code. Let's see, is that one of the ones that is here? Well, anyway, I think we do have it. Let's search for Donworth. Actually, I think there was a tag. Yeah, here. And it's worth actually going through here because this is probably, yeah. So Mike did some corresponding with him and got some information about Don's background, but also Don comes in and comments on these. So you can actually see. I don't know if he did on this particular one. But yes, I see. This is probably what the specific thing you were thinking of. I was always more proud of Linker than Zap or any of my other programs. Yeah, okay, so I guess he didn't, oops, here, let me actually go to this one. So these are the discs that Mike got and I didn't get. That's okay. But I'm hoping, though, that we can get a hold of them now, because I think that even though Mike did not have success transferring this, the applesauce may be a way to get past this error. So, oh, Quinn responded. Yeah, if you read through the comments that you hear, you can see like Mike and Quinn and Donworth all talking. It's kind of nice. But, so, anyway, I will report more next time. But that's what I have so far. Okay, thanks.